A little bit frustrated, a little frustration there from Russell Westbrook. CC, what do you make of Russ's inconsistent playoff performances?
Well, I think that we're to the time and place where Russ is in his career where maybe this is what we should expect. Maybe our expectations are wrong. Russ is a late bloomer, someone who came to basketball late. Basketball didn't come naturally to him. He had a growth spurt, didn't get highly recruited out of high school, went to UCLA, didn't have the type of media following him because there's no way when he was 20 years old, people thought that he would be a future MVP of the league. So that's one of the reasons why I call him a late bloomer. But in his rise to stardom in OKC, I don't think the organization and I don't think the coaching staff, like Russ is to the point, Russ is 30 years old. He's not a kid. Is he going to listen to anybody? Is he going to change his game? Is he going to change some of the things he does? I don't think so. So I think inconsistency is what we should expect from Russ. Now, there is no other guy in the league that's been an MVP that's as consistent as Russ. What's the reason for that? I don't know. But going on throughout the rest of his career, I would expect him to be inconsistent. I wouldn't expect him to get, oh, he's 30 now. He'll get 32. He'll get more consistent. He'll slow down. He'll play more within control. No. This, even though he did have the triple-double third season in a row, but look at some of the other numbers, not a great year for him with his free throw shooting, his field goal percentage, and he's not, even though he's an elite athlete, he's not an elite defender on a consistent basis. So for me, I'm going to have to expect this. This is the only superstar we have in the NBA that I can expect to be inconsistent throughout his career.
I think the last word you used an important one, superstar. And the question, I guess, is at this point, is Russell Westbrook a superstar? Or is he in that tier of player that has good playoff games and bad playoff games, and you don't know what you're going to get? That's the tier Damian Lillard's in. That's the tier a lot of guys that we think are a tick below Russell Westbrook or have thought is the case. But Russ has played 96 career playoff games, 96, a lot of deep postseason runs. He's a 40% shooter in those games, 40%. We have our guy Deontay, who's on the staff, is a huge Russell Westbrook fan, said before the show, I thought it was interesting. He said 8 of 20 from Russ in a playoff game is what I expect. And 8 of 20 is exactly 40%. It probably is what you should expect. But that is not what your star players, your true superstar players, deliver. Russ has played well, really well in one game this series. Not shockingly, it's the one game this series that they've won. And at 30 years old, there is no way for Russ to adjust. There is no way for Russ to get markedly better unless he comes back from an offseason, and I don't see this happening, all of a sudden as an at least slightly above average three-point shooter. All he's been for his career, except for his MVP year, is a high-volume three-point shooter that should not be shooting that high volume of threes. In the NBA playoffs, Clyde Drexler, and Charles Barkley are the worst high-volume three-point shooters amongst good players that we've ever seen.
The problem being on that list with those other two guys, at that point in their career, they were not the athletes that Russ was. Clyde Drexler, high flyer, played above the rim before Michael Jordan came. A slasher, scorer of the basketball. Barkley dominant on the offensive board. Inside post game, had a little set shot as a three-point. So the overall athleticism at this point in these guys' career, they didn't have it. So what I'm saying is Russ settles for that. Those other guys, they couldn't get to the hole anymore.
Right.
Russ can get to the hole anytime down the court, but he settles for those 3 points.
And it's just hard because Russ is an elite athlete, but he is no longer the best athlete in the league. He's no longer the most explosive guy in the league. If you're going to have his struggles with any type of range shooting, you do need to be Giannis in order to be able to consistently produce. Russ can't do that at this point, and it's disappointing. I know it's disappointing for him, and his inability to adjust accordingly is, I mean, I went from year 3 to now. If you look at how his team's been eliminated in the playoffs, it's a 4 for 20 night, a 7 for 21, a 15 of 34, an 11 of 28. I went every elimination game he's played in since his 3rd year in the league. And they all have one thing in common. He shoots a ton of shots at a low percentage.
Yep.
And that's how his team's season has ended year after year after year. His team's season didn't end last night, but it almost did. I mean, in 5 for 21, now you're down 3-1. It's going to take one of those 3-1 comebacks, incredibly rare in NBA
But if
history.
you're Russell Westbrook, you say, I'm averaging a triple-double, again, coming out of this regular season. I'm doing everything I can. I'm distributing, I'm shooting, I'm doing everything that's asked of me. What do you think the disconnect is between his success in the regular season and why he can't seem to put it together in the postseason?
The disconnect is in Russ's reality. He thinks he can just play at this type of pace, and he's not trying to get better. I don't think Russ is a savant for basketball knowledge. I don't think Russ is going out in the offseason and say, you know something, I'm going to sit down with the video staff here at OKC, and I'm going to take out the bad shots. Because scoring the basketball, if you want to be able to score the basketball, listen to Kevin Durant. You got to be able to get to your spot. You got to understand what defenses are doing. Russ doesn't read the defense. Russ is trying to go through the defense and will settle for a bad shot at any point in the game. So I'm glad you pointed out in those games that their season ended, his shot selection. So he will shoot you out of a game. Yeah. He will lose you a game. And now we're to the point where I think is some of the most disappointing thing that I see in Russ, his influence on Paul George, how they're going to do these press conferences after the game. Because for me, that's a classless act. It doesn't take any. And you're a star of the NBA. You're an MVP of the league. You're one of the faces of the NBA. After the game, that's why you're making $35 million. It's your job to sit down and answer questions from the media. And his influence on Paul George and what they did, I think, on Friday after the game, where next question, they refused to answer a local reporter's questions. To me, that's a bigger indictment than the poor shooting, not being able to shoot free throws, because it's an organization and it could be a problem for the NBA. We got a lot of younger players looking at Russ as an example, and he is not setting a great example. So if you want the big contract, you want the attention, you need to realize that part of your job, it's in your contract, is to do the media after the game.
On that specific point, I disagree with you, because it's in your contract you have to do the media. It is not in your contract you have to talk to every single person. There's one guy in the local media, Barry Trammell. He wrote about this if people want to learn more about it, that Russ does not talk to and has not talked to for 2 years. The columnist knows it. Barry knows it. Everyone knows it. Now, I guess it's his prerogative to keep asking questions, but if Russ was both teams played hard to everyone, then I would agree he's not fulfilling his obligation. I don't think he has an obligation to talk to that one person. I think for me, the much bigger concern is the fact that Russ, the stubbornness that is leading to him deciding, you know what, I'm not going to talk to that reporter forever for really reasons unknown, is the same stubbornness that is leading to his game not evolving, leading to him not progressing as the league has. As the league has become so, spacing and shooting has become so important, he is, I love him, but he's turning himself into a dinosaur, because his style. You asked what's the difference between the regular season and the postseason. Jenna, the only difference is in the postseason you're only playing good teams. He's still going to average in this series damn near a triple-double. Like, the averaging a triple-double he's going to be able to do. But the key word over the last decade in the NBA is not three-point shooting or pace or space. It is efficiency. And he has not ever mastered that. He has never understood the importance of that. KD left and went to Golden State, and he was already an efficient player, became one of the most efficient players we've ever seen.
So did James Harden. Same thing.
Russ stayed the exact same. And
Glad you mentioned that. Russ hadn't won back-to-back playoff games since KD left. So there's some other things he can prove on, too, besides the interview. So,
hadn't won a road playoff game either.
To me, playing defense is one of the things you control. Your image as far as the media, that's one of the things you control, too. And Russ, as far as both of them, in my eyes, because I'm a fan of the game and being played the right way and done the right way. Because whoever that journalist is who's covering that team, and Russ is the face of that team, not the owner, not the general manager, not the coach, Russ is. And his overall treatment of them and the disrespect of them is totally uncalled for.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.